All right, so we just made about $218 Friday. Okay, so I caught this trade yesterday actually. So it was yesterday during the London session that I caught this trade. All right, so I just quickly want to explain my conferences, what I observe price is doing before I enter this trade. So quickly, I checked the 15-minute chart. Okay, so I checked the 15-minute chart. I noticed that price is actually in an uptrend. Price was actually moving to an uptrend. So when I noticed that price was in an uptrend, and I actually knew that there is a supply zone at 1 hour right there. So I know that, okay, I simply check my 15-minute chart. So since there is a supply zone at 1 hour, which I have marked out like this, okay, this is a supply zone that has happened at 1 hour. So why price was actually moving towards this um while price was moving towards this supply zone, I was waiting patiently to see how price will react. So when I noticed that price make a break of structure around this zone, okay, so I was waiting for to see what price is going to do, and this bullish candlestick is around overlap session, and that was about 2 o'clock. Okay, so when I noticed price moved aggressively to the upside down, so I went down to my 5 minutes. Okay, but before I went down to my 5 minutes, I actually mark out my break of structure to the upside. Okay, so when I mark out my break of structure to the upside, I went down to the 5 minutes because I want to actually go and see what price actually did around this zone. Okay, so this is the break of structure that we had at 15 minutes, right? So when I noticed that price moved aggressively to the upside, I was waiting patiently to see how price is going to react. So eventually, I see that price make a new higher high. Then I noticed that price came all the way down here, making another higher low. Then price was actually struggling to move to the upside again. Price was actually struggling a lot. So when I noticed that price was struggling to go to the upside, that is when I was waiting for price to react based on my strategy. And if you have watched any of my video, you would have known the strategy that I was waiting for. So I was actually waiting for market shifts to happen because this is my higher high and this is my higher low. So what I was actually waiting for is that price should break the previous higher low, which is this zone that that I just marked right there. So when I noticed that price broke this higher low, that was when I was waiting for a retest, because after price break to the price break this higher low, price came all the way down here. Now what I want to pass what I want to pass through is that when price was actually making a reversal around this zone, I actually waited for about 3 hours plus before price actually came all the way up here. Okay, so but my intention was that price will eventually come and retest this 5 minute supply zone. But you see that price did not actually came all the way up here. So and it simply means that what I actually noticed is that when price was moving downward like this, okay, price retraced with this green candle. Okay, price retraced with this green candle, and you can see this green candle. This is another let me say supply zone. Okay, so we have our 5 minute supply zone here, 5 minute supply zone, and we also have it around here as well. Okay, so the the observation is that I want to see which of these zones price will react to. Okay, so it means that after price has retested this zone, I want to wait for my last confirmation. And what is my last confirmation? I want to see where buyers fail to push price to the upside while price is reversing to the upside here. I want to see a I want to see where sellers push the price down, like where sellers have overthrown the buyers. Okay, I want to see where sellers overthrown the buyers at this zone or this zone. So when I notice that price, there is a pressure of sellers around there, that is when I knew that price is about to push to the upside. Okay, and you see that I did not have the opportunity to enter the trade around here. Okay, so I was opportune to actually enter the trade around here because when I noticed that price has retested this 5 minute supply zone, price came all the way down here. Okay, it retraces again and came all the way up here. So it's still, price is still actually respecting. Okay, price was expecting this 5 minutes supply zone as well. Okay, so this is at the point that I enter this trade. Okay, this is at the point that I enter this trade. And why price was actually moving, it's the duration of this trade was about, I think, 5, I can't say really, but I think the duration of this trade is more than 2 hours. Yes, more than 2 hours. So more than 2 hours, I caught this trade and I made about $218 on this trade. And you can see that that is why you need to, you need to actually manage your expectations in the forex market, because on 15 minutes time frame I also noticed that there is a demand zone. Okay, so how I knew that I'm going to catch my take profit around this zone is because I knew that there is a demand zone around there, because price was actually moving to the upside. Okay, price moved to the upside like this, retraced a little bit, then there is a bullish momentum. Okay, so that is how I knew that there is a 15 minute demand zone around there. Okay, so and when I moved down to my 5 minutes, I knew that where price will most likely to react is at the next 15 minutes demand area, and that is what you see that it played out here. Okay, so I actually trade against the trend, but regardless I follow my trading plan and it actually worked. Okay, so I didn't mean that, I stayed with the trade. There's still an opportunity to enter buy trade, because you can see that after price eventually break this structure, price make another higher low. Okay, then price push to the upside. So it is still the same strategy. It is still the same strategy, because I didn't mean that I did not trade this this selling opportunity yesterday. What I'll be looking for to trade is still buy. Okay, and if I want to look for my buy setup, what I'll be doing is that after I have marked out my 15 minutes demand zone around it, I'm going to wait for price to actually come all the way to my demand area. After price come all the way to my demand area, then I want to see a bullish momentum. Okay, I want to see a change of structure. So and the understanding here is that when price came all the way down there, okay, price refused to go down, price moved to the upside. Okay, price was actually consolidating around this zone. When price got to this stage, price came all the way down, it swept all the liquidity below this zone right there. Okay, price swept all the liquidity below this zone. So after price creates this double bottom. Okay, so this is the double bottom. You can see what price did. So what price did is that I know that this is my last lower highs. Okay, this is my last lower high, because I need to wait for a shift in structure before I enter a buy setup. So I know that this is um my my this is my lower high, right? So the moment I notice that, I'm explaining in the sense that if I'm going to enter a buy setup. Okay, so this is my last higher low, and what makes it my last higher low is because this is my last break of structure to the downside. Okay, this is my last break of structure to the downside. So it means that I have my higher low right here, or sorry, lower high instead. Then after I have the lower high there, I have my lower low right here. Okay, so now what I'll be expecting before I enter a buy setup is that I want to wait for a shift in structure. So I'm explaining this because this is the same strategy that I use for this selling opportunity. This is the same thing that always happens. Okay, so when I see that there is a new lower highs and lower low. Price was consolidating around this zone, right? Price was consolidating around this zone. So when I notice that price is consolidating around this zone, and we see that price created a double bottom. Okay, so now what I want to expect price to do is that I want price to break above my lower highs. And you can see that what price did is that price eventually broke through my lower high. You can see that. So now after price break the lower high, I want to wait for liquidity sweep. That is my last confirmation. I want to wait for liquidity sweep. And you can see that after price break the lower high, price came all the way down, sweeping all the liquidity below this double bottom here. You can see that. So when price did that, you can see the candlestick that actually formed. So this is where we look for our confirmation entry, because immediately price break this, you can see that this candlestick actually went all the way below this demand area. So that is our last, and this candle is our confirmation candle. It is our confirmation candle to enter this trade. So if I had also entered this trade yesterday, okay, so we simply place our entry around this zone, place our stop loss below, below this liquidity candle. Then we want to target, so let me go down to our 15 minutes. We want to target the new high. Okay, we want to target another high. So it simply means that we can target a new high like this. Okay, you can see that this is just how price actually reacts. So I believe that you learned something right here. So this is trading with supply and demand. And I believe that if you also learn how to trade supply and demand, then you are going to be profitable in the long run. So I'll see you very soon. Thank you.